finally have you on the podcast. This is a long time coming. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, I'm okay too. The sun is shining. It's hot. I'm shiny. All is good. So first question I always ask my guests is tell my audience where in the world are you located? And then tell us also one thing about you that is unexpected. Maybe people are surprised and it has nothing to do what you do for like work or what we're talking about after.
Yeah, I live in Tampa, Florida right now. I'm originally from the Cayman Islands. We were just talking about this. The weather is really warm right now, which I love. And one thing people don't typically know about me, so Cayman has a very like Southern gospel type of flow. Anyway, so my grandparents used to watch a lot of like cowboys and Indian type shows. And so there's this show called Walker, Texas Ranger and Matlock. Everyone should know Matlock. It's amazing. It's a lawyer show, but I love those shows, these old school, like, investigative crime fighting shows. And yeah, people are always surprised, but I think I have an old soul. So I love those type of shows.
That's interesting. So I have heard of those shows, but I haven't watched them.
Now it's time to go watch
Not
it.
to my knowledge. I don't have TV anyways, and so I'm not really watching those. Yeah, but that's awesome to know. And Cayman Island, this sounds like paradise to me. I just have to say.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place.
I bet. But we're not talking about Cayman Islands, although I probably could talk with you about Cayman Islands and the weather all day long. But we're talking about how to find peace with food, exercise, and rest. And I have said before here on the podcast that especially weight loss and food issues are very similar to when people deal with clutter. So that's why I'm also so excited that you're here. But I want to know from you, how did you get into this?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it starts with my own journey, right? So when I was in high school, I was I wouldn't say overweight. I just probably was a little bit heavier than most kids. And I started playing sports, like 3 different sports around one time. And so naturally, you're kind of more concerned with what you're eating and in order to fuel your sports and stuff like that. And so I started following the food pyramid, which is just a very common way of eating when we first start trying to be healthy, quote unquote. And I just lost weight, but I noticed that I got a lot of affirmation for that. Just like, oh, you're looking great. Like, keep it up, and you're only like 14, 15-year-old girl, right? So you're like, oh, wait, when I'm smaller, I get noticed. Like, that's just like the thought pattern you tell yourself. And I also was very studious. And so whenever I got good grades, I was affirmed. So I started really at an early age to find my worth or value in my weight and my work. Just like if I look a certain way and if I perform a certain way, I'm accepted, I belong, all those things. Well, there ended up being a huge hurricane that hit Cayman that just changed things. My friends went off to school. We lived with my grandparents for a time, and I just felt like things were a little bit out of control. And whenever all of us feel like something's out of control, we find some coping mechanism. So for me, initially, it was like, okay, I'm just going to pour myself into what I do, like my studies, and I'm going to exercise and really get laser focused on what I ate, to the point where I was way too small for my body structure. Like my period stopped, and like I just got my period a few years ago, so it shouldn't stop, and I was just actually probably I was probably depressed. Like I just wouldn't have called it that then. Just, even when my friends came back, I just was like was just very closed off. And so that it just became very unhealthy until like actually some friends and family and actually a teacher just was like, basically noticed what was happening. And a teacher who had a nutritionist coming for their career class said, hey, do you want to speak to her? And I did. And I like started crying because it wasn't actually about the food. Like it was not. It was about this idea of like I was just dealing with so many things, and I was using food or lack thereof to really cope, or even exercise and all that. So I never really dealt with that. I just kind of gained some weight. Everyone got a little bit happy, right? But because I never dealt with the way I was using food or exercise to deal with my emotions, fast forward to the end of high school, I was up to be valedictorian, which was like the end all be all, right? Like it's like if I do this, I've made it in the world, which it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But I went to food for comfort. So I did the complete opposite, where I was emotionally and overeating. And so that just came with like a lot of shame and a lot of guilt of just like, wait, what? I was like very controlled before. And now I'm not. And so that's when I would really say I started dieting. I just started trying different things to fix my body or fix the situation. But they never lasted because it wasn't coming from a place of I want to take care of my body. It was coming from a place I want to fix myself. And that continued till college. And then to me, when I really reconnected with my faith and started to see that my worth was not in anything that I do or even how I look, that changed things. I started to slowly make changes in my health that it wasn't about weight loss. It was just about taking care of my body. And then the weight loss came because my body needed to lose weight at that time. And it got to a place where I was healthy and I actually felt joy because I was looking at my whole health, right? I wasn't just looking at my body or physical health. Excuse me, I was considering my mental, emotional, financial, all these other areas of health. And that's when I was an accountant at the time. And that's when I was like, I just wonder if I could do something to help other women. Long story, I went and got my health coaching certification, started seeing clients and knew that I just loved coaching women, regardless of the topic, health, life, business, have experience in all of them. And so that's kind of what brought me here 6.5 years later.
Yeah. Don't we all have, or well, maybe not all, but a lot of people I come across have a similar story. And I feel like it's also society. And I don't want to just blame always the outside world, but I had an experience too. It's like I look back at my photos when I was a kid and I feel like I was just normal looking, normal weight and everything. But I remember to this day, I was maybe 10 years old, 11 years old, and we went to buy a new bathing suit. And my mother was with me, and the lady in the store said to my mother, "Oh, she's a little chubby." And that stayed in my conscious. And so then I also I always felt like, oh, if I lose weight, then I'm accepted. I had to wear glasses as a child. Oh, if I don't have to wear glasses, I'm accepted. And on top of it, like you mentioned too, the surrounding react positive to you. Like when I got contact lenses, all of a sudden I was seen. And I mean, I was a teenager, I wanted to be seen by boys before with glasses. No boys looked at me afterwards. I could sense like that they looked, it's like, and with weight too, every time you lose a little bit of weight, people say, "Oh, you look great, you lost weight," and you get all this affirmation. And it's so wrong because then, like you said, you start abusing our body and ourselves mentally and emotionally with these outside things. And some people like you and I for a while too with food, and then others do it with clutter or like with buying things, because you also get affirmation from the outside when you can buy things or when you have nice things. So instead of going to the root cause and actually figuring out what brings me joy. So yeah, so I love your story. Now I have another question. So your business is called Madewell 345, and I'm really wondering. Right. And I'm a fellow accountant, so 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, 3 + 4 doesn't equal 5. I'm in the process of renaming it. I would say like all my social right now is Madewell Women because that's where I'm headed. But so my business started eventually. It was supposed to be Madewell. And it comes from a story in the Bible where basically God says, "Do you want to be made well?" And I just felt like that was my story. Like I really need to be made well, like whole. But Madewell is a jeans company, so that domain was taken. So Cayman 345 area code is like a really big thing back home. It's like not foreign. So when I said Madewell 345 for my business, or think people are like, "Oh yeah, cool, it's like local," so that's where that comes from. 345 is just our area code, but I'm in the process of transitioning everything to Madewell Women because I really wanted to say that, hey, I help women, but also create a movement where it's like we are Madewell Women, right? So that's where the 345 comes from.
But I love it. I was certain there was a story behind it because
I didn't just do numbers 3, 4.
Exactly. No, but I love the story, especially because like I wouldn't have had no clue about 345 is being so well known. But it is important, has meaning to you, and then it got recognized. Yeah, I really love that. So I could go so many ways with this. Let's talk about what you're talking about too is like a holistic approach, because like a lot of times we're just focusing on, let's just eat good, and that may not help because it doesn't address the emotions. or it doesn't address that we're so stressed out that we don't sleep, and it may not help
Right.
if we eat better, or we're maybe eating better but then we're having other crazy issues where we're abusing our body or our mental state. So how did you get, does the holistic approach come from your coaching training, or where did you figure that one out?
Good question. So I did this, it was a Christian weight health program, but it focused on that. It said, okay, we're going to like watch we're eating, but let's grow let's grow mentally. How are you mentally doing? How, like emotions, like what's really going on, and spiritually, obviously. But then, yeah, so that just looking at my whole health, it just made me see, wow, like when all these other aspects are in play, I make better choices physically and vice versa. But then, so when I was searching for a health coaching school, I was looking for someone who also believed in holistic approach. And I was like, Googling during my accounting lunch break. And I was like, oh, this school, how did it come? They like believe exactly what I believe. And what they, Institute of Integrated Nutrition would talk about is that what primarily feeds us is not what we eat. That's our secondary food. But what primarily feeds us is our relationships. They would say it's your relationships, career, our overall physical well-being. So not just our food, and our spirituality. And I was like, I love that the fact that they're looking at that holistic approach, but also they're looking at functional health too, right? So that's another thing where it's like, what's actually at the root of the issue, which could be physical, but it also could be mental, emotional. People don't realize that actually stress, for example, really, like, so even if you're feeling disorganized and stressed with your house, which it's how I feel right now with 2 young kids, like you can actually hold that within your body and your mind in such a way that can physically not make you well, right? So that's why we need to look at all of these different modalities. And when you're just looking at why am I not eating well, and you're stressed out and always emotionally eating, it's like, then you're actually ignoring something that's really actually triggering what's causing that behavior. So we often look at our behavior and what we're doing versus like the other things that could be the root cause.
Yeah, and I love that. And I love that about how you approach it, because this is a little bit of a pet peeve in my experience. When people talk about decluttering, they just look at, oh, well, you just have to sort everything. Or like on Instagram, you see all these beautiful, like, and they are beautiful, all these beautiful places with all the containers and labeled and everything. But
yeah,
what is the root cause that somebody has a mess? And I'm not talking about young mothers or mothers with young children like you, because there we maybe have to go from a different angle and say,
right.
okay, she has 2 young children. Of course, her house is a mess. Now, we're not going to go in and say, well, now you have to start labeling all the containers and then your life is so much better. No. Yeah. We have to actually work on the mental and emotional, that it's right now just how it is, that you can't get your children to fit into an Instagram worthy, perfectly looking living room,
Right. And I love what, because I remember when you were on my podcast, right, we talked about like that 5 minutes at a time. And what even I had to do, this is just a side note, this is like really admonishing your work, is that I just am like, you know what, I have all these ideas of what I can do in a given day for my house, even working. And then with my kids, I'm like, they're going to go to bed at a perfect time. And then I'm going to be able to do the laundry. I'm going to be able to wash it. And I said, okay, what's one, like literally, I'm like, excuse me, one thing that you can do today to make you feel better about your house. And so sometimes that's folding laundry, sometimes that's dishes, sometimes that's brushing and mopping one room, right? So I just think like we have to, and that's in anything, it's like habits, right? Small things will really help my house be cleaned over time, right? But I agree, like it's like, I have to work on the mindset as well, because I expect myself to just do all things. And I can't,
No. And sometimes that one thing, or the few minutes, is actually forgiving yourself that you are way too tired to do anything physically now. And then the one thing is actually to go and lay on the sofa or wherever for the few minutes and look after yourself,
Very true.
And instead of pushing yourself, and I know this so well with this, everything works perfect in the world, like you have it all planned out, and then life happens and nothing works that way. And then what are we doing instead of accepting, okay, today we live in chaos.
Right.
We're starting to beating ourselves up, and that leads often then to more, like when I help my clients, to more clutter, because then they try to soothe themselves with buying stuff on Amazon, maybe that they don't need. Or with your clients, maybe it ends up being they're stuffing food in their mouth that they actually didn't want to eat.
Right.
Because they're beating themselves up. And so that's where I'm saying sometimes we really have to just declutter the mind, and give us permission to rest, rather than thinking we need to jump up and make the living room insta-worthy now that the kids are in bed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So when clients come to you, what is the first step you start doing with them? Like, I know you have some kind of on your website, I think I saw a health breakthrough kit or something. But I want to know, like, because it can be very overwhelming. It's just like with clutter. If we're a little bit out of sync with eating, with our body and everything, where do we even start? Where do you start with your clients?
Yeah, I would say I definitely want to start where they want to start, because often, I want to address whatever they feel is the biggest need. But often what we think is our biggest problem is not our biggest need, right? So that's why as a coach, I listen and I'm saying, so it seems like you're saying this, but what you're basically saying is this other thing. And so I actually think for women that I tend to work with, the first place that I start is their mind. And it's not to say that we're going to spend 6 months just working on your mindset and not changing your habits. No, but really what you were even talking about, our beliefs drive our thoughts, our words, our emotions, then drive our habits and our actions. And so I think what women believe about food, about their bodies, about diets, about the scale, about exercise, because sometimes we only see it as a way to maintain our weight or lose weight, right? And even about how we should handle our emotions. These are the 7 things I would say that are my version of food freedom, of looking at these areas. We look and start there, because when we can see what we truly believe about those things, that is going to change how we act. Because if we believe that, let's say, for example, low carb is the only way we could ever be healthy and lose weight, then that's the way your nutrition is going to be. But what if actually that is not the best way for you and your body? Yes. Right. So we have to address all that. Or actually where you feel like, my goodness, if I can only eat, the only thing that I can eat are things that don't taste good. I remember someone that I know, a family member who shall not be named, is saying oh, if I go on a diet, I have to give up everything that tastes good, which is totally false. But if you believe that, then you're going to do that for 3 months, and then your nutrition is going to go right back to where it was before. So
3 months eating what you don't like. I don't think
I know. Right. So I think looking at our beliefs and our mindset is somewhere that we're actually having to constantly go back to. It's not like we've arrived and we're done. I think looking at particularly, let's say, for affirmations or limiting beliefs, all that, exercising positive thoughts and beliefs is to our mind what exercise is to our bodies. Right. We need to do it all the time. And you even know in business, you need to do it all the time. And so so we really look at the mindset piece while still looking on how do we make slow, sustainable changes in our habits that aren't, and I'm going to say, aren't sexy, because I think people are I want to do a 30-day challenge, which is great. I have 30-day programs, but they're not your typical, you need to change everything. No, it's hey, just work on drinking water this week. And you're what? Yes. But it's those slow, simple steps over time that lead to success, not just survival, right? Not just maintaining, but if you continue to be someone who drinks water every day at a certain amount, even when you get to whatever goal you have, you're going to keep drinking water. It's just who you are now, right? Yes. So mindset and simple habits are definitely where we start.
Yeah. Oh, I love how you say this and how you word this, because I always say all the clutter starts in the mind, and that's where we have to start, and the small steps, and this is where this also comes from, that it's so similar with what we do with weight loss is also what people expect with clutter. They wanna have the 24-hour makeover or the do-over or whatever, and they see these shows on TV and they want that. But it's so funny because no, you don't want it, because you can't handle it all of a sudden.
Very true. Where is all my stuff? It's organized, but I have no idea where it
Exactly. And you have no idea. But it's not just that, it goes even deeper. If you have never experienced that, that all of a sudden, like just get your, not bashing anybody, but just get your mother-in-law in your house while you're on vacation and let her organize your home. That's about how it feels afterwards, you know? It's
Right.
like, and then also like another thing is like people can't handle empty spaces when they are used to cluttered spaces.
Right.
You
We're
need
just
to
going to
go
fill it
step.
with something else.
Yeah, they fill it right away with something else. And it is similar, like, and you can't push yourself with willpower to be decluttered and organized. It's the same with food. You can't push yourself with willpower. You can eat, I don't know, I couldn't eat for 3 months what I don't like. That would
Yeah.
be hard for me. But you can push yourself a certain amount of time to only eat what you don't like for whatever reason, like you said, your relative does. But you will fall back to your old habits. So the only way how you get out of it is step by step, creating new habits that then, like you said, once you reach your goal, you have these habits and you don't, it's not hard anymore to stay where you are. Most people gain weight again because they're going too fast. No, most people's house gets cluttered again because they try to do the 24-hour turnover. And so that's why I love so much your approach with starting with the mind and then small little tweaks, you know, or whatever you want to call it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And then I know you talk about sleep too. And I think a lot of people forget about the sleep part, that our body needs sleep. And in our world, we all feel like we can abuse our body, like with not drinking enough water, with not sleeping enough, with feeding it the wrong fuel. Like if you would put the wrong gas in your car wouldn't drive. If we put the wrong food in our body or not enough water, our body still works, which is amazing. And then even sleeping. I read studies that if you don't sleep enough, then your body is holding on to the weight or something like that. I'm pretty sure you know more about that than me. You want to talk about that a bit?
Stress and sleep are two of the most important things that you will ever could do for your body. So what happens when we are like, they go hand in hand. So when we're stressed, we're in this, what we call the sympathetic nervous system state. It's fight or flight. And we actually need to be stressed sometimes, right? Like, so if like something is threatening our livelihood, or like threatening our like life, a lion, a snake, a deadly spider, we need to like fight that or fly it, like fly away from it, right? So our body immediately, you know, starts pumping this like, you know, insulin is released, adrenaline, a lot of cortisol, and it's so what stress does, and when those hormones are released, it shuts down other parts of our body that are not necessary to fighting that stress. So your digestive system is slower, your immune system is slower. So like all these important things. But so your body's supposed to go back down to what we call a parasympathetic state, or rest and digest state. Now, that's where even sleep comes in, right? So we think in a normal day, we're active, we're busy, we're mentally, physically engaging in things. And then in the night, we sleep. So what actually is happening is we're kind of activating that sympathetic state throughout the day, and then sleep helps that rest and digest. But when we sleep, there are so many things that go on behind the scenes that we don't even realize. Your energy is restored because your body has had time to recover. Your cells are restored. Your digestive system resets itself. Your brain has a time to like do what it's, I heard one time I was writing this like kind of like mini TED talk for this big conference. And the guy who was helping facilitate the speaker said, I'm like, I feel really stuck here. And he's like, think about it right before bed, go to sleep, and wake up and think about it again. And you've always heard people say sleep on it. And I'm like, but sure enough, for some reason, my brain had time to really process things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this idea came up in the morning. And that's because your brain has a chance to work in such a way that it cannot restore itself in the daytime. And so so that's what happens. But sometimes deadly effects, like really hard effects of not sleeping over time, you know, could impact your age and could impact your quality of life. Could impact your cognitive function, your ability to just be focused throughout the day. And something happens in regards to weight. When you sleep, there's some hormones released. So there's one called leptin, which helps you feel satiated longer. So feeling more satisfied with your food and full. And then there's this other hormone called ghrelin, which helps increase your appetite. And so, which we need to feel hungry, right? So we can like eat. So it's not a bad thing. So when you sleep, more leptin is produced. And so you're able to, throughout your day, really just listen to what your body really needs for hunger. But when you don't sleep, more ghrelin is produced. So that's why you want sugar. That's why you want all these other foods, because you know in your mind it's going to make you feel instant energy because you're tired. So what happens then is that you're just choosing foods too that you're not normally choosing. And again, going back to like your body doesn't have a chance to reset itself and actually work on the process of getting rid of extra weight if you're not sleeping. So get some sleep as much as you can. And I understand people, there are things like maybe you have kids and you're getting your master's degree while working full time. You know, like you're going to lose a few hours, but it's like really asking yourself, like, you might have to give up something else. You might have to give up your TV show. You might have to give up cleaning right before bed and just worry about that on the weekend, or hire someone to do it. So whatever we need to do to prioritize sleep for our stage of life and circumstances is very important, because you will be less emotional. Like all emotions are good, but you'll feel less irritable. You'll feel less sad. You'll feel less of those like kind of like negative ones when you also sleep as well.
Yeah, and I feel like these negative ones are the ones that then start sabotaging us, because we come from a willpower place,
right?
And then we're sabotaging, and we're I mean, when you're stressed, and we all are sometimes stressed, but nobody can be always in a bliss state unless maybe you're a monk up in the Himalayas or something. But when you're stressed and when the environment is stressful, then you're automatically not making the best choices, because you can't, because your brain can't, and then you're sabotaging yourself. So it's kind of like a vicious cycle. So if we can interrupt it by sleeping more, so that then and every little thing counts. I think too is like often people, and I don't know whether that's your experience too, but for me, when clients come to me, often they think there is this one thing that I need to do, and then everything is fine. And it's often not a one thing. It's lit of several over different areas, several little things that we can just tweak a bit, and we inch forward, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And so I don't know whether you want to talk about this too, but I know you do some aromatherapy or these oils or whatever. How do they fit into the whole picture?
Yeah. So I started using essential oils. First, let me say, when I first heard of essential oils, like, I mean, everyone's heard of it, lavender, tea tree, peppermint, like those are the top three we all know that are basic usage. But I didn't really have any concern about them or care about them for a long time. And so for me, it was when I personal experience of having some really bad tension in my wrist, tendonitis actually. And it, that just takes, it's a very small tendon. So it takes time to, become less inflamed, time to heal. And the pain was very kind of severe. And I got introduced to a blend that was made of essential oils and really just helped provide relief that I had not experienced for a whole 6 months. So that was when I was like, what are these things? And like, how do they work? And, all that stuff. So I did a lot of research, education, and really coming to find out that what was in this was wintergreen essential oil. And wintergreen essential oil has the same natural component called methylsalicylic acid that is in a lot of our synthetic versions of the over-the-counter pain medication. So that is why it worked, because it literally, and that's why the natural form worked really quickly, So that's when I was like, okay, it turns out essential oils are just these beautiful things taken from different plants and herbs and things are in the earth that have therapeutic benefits. And we get to use those therapeutic benefits and don't have to worry about like distilling it or all that. It's just easily bottled, especially when it's in a pure natural form that could help us. So how it comes along is that, one, I knew some women would want support, like the entry point would be that, and some women would want coaching support, and sometimes it overlaps. But I think essential oils are a good supplement to this mindset and habits work. So if you're feeling overly stressed, right, and you take deep breaths, which is a great habit to do to shift your mindset, because it goes from that sympathetic to that parasympathetic, so that stressed out to calming response. When you inhale an essential oil that is by nature calming, It goes through your olfactory system, your smelling system, to your brain, your limbic system, which is in charge of mood and behavior, and calms it. And so what is happening is that not only the breaths are helping, but so is the smell, so is the aroma. And obviously, aromatherapy is one way you can use oils, but that's how I've just seen it to be such a powerful solution. And then in regards to like boosting your immune system, there are things that we do in the fall, right? We drink spices. There's a reason why we have cook and make a lot of spices in the fall. It's because the weather's change, our immune system is gonna need a little extra support. Well, there was this blend that doTERRA has that is full with a lot of spices that help with your immune system. So it's really just a great tool for whatever health priority you have, to be a great tool and supplement to, you know, working on your mindset, working on your habits. It's not meant to me, it's not meant to be the only thing. Like if you're saying, I want some oils to help me with my skin, I would say 80% of your skin health is inside out. So what are you eating? What are you putting in your body? But, you know, the oils will help 20%. So, yeah, so I think it's a great tool in addition to all the other work that you may be doing in your health.
Yeah, and I love the story how you discovered it, because
Yeah.
it's like I relate to you a little bit, because you said you're also an accountant. So we come from this left brain,
Right.
scientific, all this rigid thinking, perfectionist thinking, and then how do you say that? Oh gosh, I lost the word. Oh, we find, I want to say a different word, but we find all of a sudden something that surprisingly works, and it doesn't fit in that accountant brain.
Right.
Yeah, so this is really awesome. So talk a little bit about what are the people, so you said already you work mainly with women, but tell us a little bit, what kind of women you're attracting most? What are you helping? Because I know something unusual about you, or maybe.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, from a coaching point of view, it seems like most women are older. Like I'm only 32, gonna be 33 soon. And most women tend to be in their like 40s, 50s, 60s. And the reason why I think that is because kids are out the house. They've just gotten to a stage in their life where they recognize that they need to care for themselves in the ways that they've probably like been stuffing for a while, just because, you know, even like with elderly parents or like young kids or whatever, you're like, you've just been giving and serving, whether it's your job or whether it's people, and you just realize that in order for you to be healthy and well and actually continue to do those things, you have to look at your own health. But also, you know, hormones shift. So that shifts in regards to how easy or hard it is to manage weight or do certain habits. Metabolism changes. So there's just this shift that happens around perimenopause, menopause age, 38, 40s, 50s, that I think a lot of women wake up to the fact that what may have worked at one point may not work anymore. So they have to do a deeper dive into like looking at this mindset and habit stuff. Now, oils, honestly, I've served every different age group with oils, because everyone can get my help too in regards to coaching, but a lot of it tends to be those same women, but also younger women who are looking for help with stress and sleep or skincare health, moms looking for natural solutions for their kids, and even other health and wellness professionals, or just other women who are looking to serve and support other people and want to partner with me and doing the same with oils. So so it's a wider range of women as well.
What interests me is, what is your theory, like that these, like I totally get with the age, I'm 54, but actually I found it easier to lose weight now than before. So for some reason I could never lose weight before, and now I'm actually at the weight I always wanted to be, and it's really interesting. But so anyway, that's beside the point. What I'm wondering is like, what do you think, or what is your theory, that these women who are up to 20 years older than you, what attracts them to you? Because like, you don't know how it feels to be in menopause yet.
No, totally
not. So I'm not saying it's wrong or anything. It's just I don't know what you think, why.
Sorry, I just kicked all my vitamins here off the thing. I don't necessarily think it's because they've I've gone through the exact same thing they've gone through. I do think a lot of them have wrestled with their relationship with food. And I have gone through something similar, and obviously it's different, every different person, different age. So the fact that I've overcome a lot of that, I think does draw them. But I think, I don't know, maybe I have an old soul.
I just wanted to say that.
I know, because I'm like, I'm watching these
what
old shows, but maybe I'm mature for my age. I don't know. But I also think
Mm.
it's because of my posture of like, maybe they see me as like a daughter they can trust. But
Mhm.
I do think it's my posture of like, of listening and really holding grace for them, of saying like, listen, I know maybe in the past you were super disciplined, but you may not be now, but life is different for you now. So really holding that place of grace, encouragement, while also holding them accountable and challenging them. So maybe it's a combination of that. You might have to ask them,
Yeah.
but maybe it's a combination of that.
Yeah.
That
No,
draws
I
them.
wanted to know what you're and that because this came constantly to me, because I am one of these women in
Right.
the age bracket that you have a lot of clients. And when you said that to me first, that most of your clients are so much older, actually that's what I thought. Oh, you're somehow you're an old soul. That's how it's a different connection.
Right.
Because it wouldn't be so logical that somebody would, especially with menopause issues or whatever, would come to somebody who has no clue about menopause.
Yeah. And I understand I'm limited, right? So there are like, if there's specific things that sometimes even like menopausal issues, let's just say like lifestyle is actually huge, and like on whether how intense those conditions are and how not, right? So I think maybe they even say like, okay, I need to change my lifestyle, that can be contributing. But if there is ever a point with any client I'm working with that I'm like, this is outside of my scope and of my, I'm just saying I can help you with this, but I really do think you need to, like, I know a lot of people, you need to talk to this person, or you need to talk to this person if you want specific help here. But often I feel like a lot of women, regardless of the issue, who work with me, it is because of that. I just want help in making things simple for myself, you know?
Yeah, awesome. So where would they find you? Do you have a favorite social media platform where they find you?
I've been on Instagram a lot more, sharing behind the stories and the reels, but I also have a Facebook group because I understand a lot of people in that age range aren't on Instagram. Madewell Women's Health Community is the Facebook group, and the Madewell Women is my Instagram handle. So you can find me there.
Yeah, and I will put the links in the show notes. So before we wrap up, Brianna, and you go back to your beautiful children, any last words or anything that I didn't ask you that you would like to have said and you had no chance yet to say it? Now is your chance.
I think at the end of the day, I think every woman, regardless of her age, just needs to continue to recognize that it is not just okay, it is necessary to prioritize our well-being. That does not mean you're just thinking about yourself and ignoring other people. It's just saying like, hey, I need 5 minutes every morning to drink my coffee in silence and like just get settled for the day. Oh, I need to get some essential oils. Oh, I need to work with, with you to like help organize my life. Like, it's okay to spend money on things that we feel like we should, like, historically we feel like we shouldn't spend money on, right? So I actually think not just at dedicating time and energy, I actually think it speaks to yourself when you're willing to dedicate money and seeing that as an investment in yourself. Because our family, our kids, our loved ones, we would like, oh yeah, I'll get you that gift. Oh, you want this? For sure. But I think when we can do that for ourselves, it shows us that like, oh yeah, I'm a line item in my budget, like it's important that I'm in there. So ask yourself, what is the next thing that you need support around in order for you to be your healthiest self? Is it help with organizing? Is it help with your health? Is it help with your mindset? Is it help, and just start small there, right? And then, there's tons of other things that you might want help with, but just start small. Honestly, it could be getting a nanny, whatever it is, like just getting help and support.
I know.
Get it.
Oh, I love that. I love that you said that at the end, because like one thing I always say is like decluttering is self-love, and with decluttering I mean so much. I don't just mean physical. And I don't know why we always think, especially as women, that we don't need anything, but we can just give. We can't give if we have nothing. So we have to give to ourselves as well, so that we can then serve and be the best woman we can be. So thanks so much for saying this, and thanks so much for being on my podcast finally, Brianna.
I know. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.